today is just a push off from that program that we've been doing. I'm going to do several small talks about the program itself, Take 5, yeah? And today we have, and every Tuesday before we start the program, we're doing what is called My Path to Mecca. We're allowing some of your teachers to come and to tell you how they became Muslim, yeah? And today we have, Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Who do we have with us today?
During a time where they had a lot of troubles there. And my mother and father were from a group called the Nation of Islam.
أمي وأبويا كانوا مجموعة أمة الإسلام.
And this is a so-called group of people who say that they're Muslims, but in actuality they have a far different belief than Islam.
وهذول أمة الإسلام ناس يسموا نفسهم مسلمين بس معتقداتهم بعيدة جدا عن الإسلام الحقيقي.
For example, they believe that Allah came in the person of a man called Fard Muhammad in 1930.
يعني يتوقعوا مثلا إن الله تجسد في جسد واحد اسمه فراد محمد 1930.
And they believe that his mission was to save the black people in the United States.
وكانوا يظنوا إنه مهمة هذا الشخص اللي الله تجسد فيه إنه ينقذ الأمريكان السود في أمريكا.
They believe that they had a messenger named Elijah Muhammad, and he was a prophet.
كان يتوقع يظنوا إنه في واحد اسمه إيلاجا محمد نبي اسمه إيلاجا محمد.
And he was the example to raise the black people up, and that white people who came from European origin could never be Muslims.
وكان يقول إنه مهمته هو إنقاذ السود في أمريكا والبيض مستحيل ينضموا لهذه الجماعة.
But so my mother and father actually they had some precepts of Islam, as such as fasting, and they read the Quran, but they didn't have salat. They did not pray.
وكانوا يعني أمي وأبوي يقروا قرآن ويسووا أشياء عندهم مفاهيم بس ما كانوا يصلوا ولا كانوا يعني يطبقوا الإسلام الحقيقي.
Because the meaning of
Because actually this thing is not working. Is it?
It's for the mic. It's working for the. It's working for this. Looking for the camera.
ما في صوت ها؟ في صوت يا إخوان؟ Okay, go ahead.
okay. So the meaning of salat with them was just to make prayers by hand, to make any type of normal supplication that anyone does normally.
فمعنى الصلاة إنهم يصلوا فقط بس يسووا أي دعاء ويصلوا بطريقة يعني مفتوحة كل واحد يصلي على طريقته.
And the meaning of fasting was in the month of December every year in the Christian calendar that they would abstain from drinking and eating.
والصيام عندهم عبارة عن صيام في شهر ديسمبر يمتنعوا فيه عن Okay, so I guess we're just gonna shift mics, I guess.
This is the working microphone.
Yes, this is the one working.
Okay. So.
Yeah, go ahead. You just go ahead. Don't worry. I'll translate. Yeah.
So my mother and father tried to keep me away from the dangers of what they saw in society, like the free mixing and the eye of men and of girls and boys in the public schools, and teaching of sexual practices in school, which was less at that time than it is now. But they tried to keep me away from going to any type of places by myself and mixing in with the society around me.
فأهلي كانوا يهتموا فيا، أمي وأبويا كانوا مهتمين فيا، كانوا يمنعوني أن أروح أماكن اختلاط، إني أضيع في المجتمع وإني أسوي أشياء زي كذا، ما هي كويسة.
And I never left the house except in the company of my mother and father. One day, a boy came and asked me if I wanted to go to public school. And I said I go to school at home. My mother and father teach me. They teach me more than they would teach you in the first grade. I was about 7 years old then.
فكنت ما أطلع من البيت إلا مع أمي وأبويا. ولما مرة جاني واحد من زملائي قال لي بتمشي أنت ما تروح لمدارس عامة؟ فقلت أنا ما أروح لمدارس عامة. أمي وأبويا يهتموا فيا ويدرسوني.
So he asked me, do you know about Jesus? You know, do you believe that Jesus is God? And I had an idea about Allah because my mother and father would always say Allah, and I didn't know that they believed that Fard Muhammad was Allah. So Allah to me was something far distant, something supreme that I didn't have a whole understanding of, but much higher than Jesus.
سألوني قالوا تعرف من هو واحد مرة سألني قال تعرف من هو عيسى فما قلت له ماني متأكد بس كنت أعرف من هو الله وأعرف إيش كان يعني لأن أمي وأبوي دائما يتكلموا عن الله بس ما كنت أعرف بالضبط إيش هو أو فكرته بالضبط أو من هو الله يعني في صورته اللي نعرفها إحنا هنا.
He asked me, don't you want to be like the normal kids? Don't you want to be like everybody else? Go to school and play at the schools? I said, I have enough to play with here. And when he left, and he asked me again, did I believe that Jesus was God? And I told him that if there is a God, let him put a rainstorm of a shower of stones and fire upon us at that moment.
فكان يقول لي ما تبغى تصير زي بقية الناس ما تبغى تروح تلعب تخرج فقلت له أنا عندي كل ألعابي وكل الأشياء اللي أبغاها موجودة هنا موجودة هنا عندي قال له ما تبغى تؤمن بالله ما تبغى تؤمن بعيسى فقلت له إذا كان في موجود الله فعلا خليه يمطر لنا نار وحجار الآن قدامي.
I thought to myself that, you know, I better take that back. But I wanted him to go away because I knew that there was Allah. But I wanted him to go away and leave me alone because he called me abnormal. He said, don't you want to be like the normal people? And that's what he did. He went away, he said, don't say that. And he went away crying.
طبعا لما قلت كذا خفت وقلت ولا أراجع كلامي لكني كنت طفشان من هذا اللي طفشني قاعد ورايا وكنت بس أبغاه يمشي من عندي وفعلا مشي من عندي تركني.
So that word that he told me, he said, don't you want to be like the normal people? It went over in my head. The normal people, the normal people, the normal people. Until I made it up in my mind that I would run away from home to go to school, to go to a public school.
بس فكرة إني أصير زي الناس العاديين هذه ترند في إذني قاعدة. إلين في الأخير بعد فترة قررت إني يعني خطر بالي إني أشرد من البيت وأروح للمدارس العادية زي بقية الناس.
So I ran away. And the surrounding environment, like I said, I was living in Compton at that time on the corner of Willowbrook and Piru Street, which was one of the first gang-related neighborhoods that they had. And I was walking down the street and I met two people who took me into their shelter, a shelter of a cardboard shack. And I stayed there for 2 weeks until they tried to get an arrangement for me to go to school.
طبعا فعلا في الأخير شرطنا البيت ومشيت كنت في منطقة يعني مزدحمة وكنت سكنت عند ناس عايشين في شاك اللي هو بيت قديم مرة مهدم أو صندقة وقعدت معهم أسبوعين لين بدأوا فعلا يخططوا إنهم يحطوني في مدرسة.
And by the way, sometimes I see it in the Muslim world, a similar scenario where people are protected or have the ability to be protected from the beliefs in society and practices of society, and someone comes to them and says, you're not normal, and they begin to want to run off and practice those same type of practices.
وفكرة الهروب من البيت هذه فكرة يعني لاحظتها حتى في العالم الإسلامي يكون الواحد عايش في بيته ومقفل على الدنيا وبعدين فجأة يبغى يصير زي بقية الناس.
So I stayed with these people and their mother came to me one day. We kept it secret until they told me that the only way that we can get you in public school is by your mother and father's permission. And we can't do that unless you go back home. I said, I can't go back home and I won't do it until I go to a public school and be normal like the rest of the people.
طبعا في الأخير جوني قالوا لي اللي كنت ساكن معهم قالوا ما تقدر تروح المدرسة الحكومية والمدارس العامة إلا موافقة أمك وأبوك فلازم ترجع البيت عشان تأخذ الموافقة. رفضت، قلت لهم ماني رايح البيت لين أنا أدخل في المدرسة العادية أصير زي بقية الناس.
So I went with the people, and the lady gave me, by the way, I hadn't eaten a nice meal for, like I said, for 2 weeks. Every day they would bring me peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and my smell wasn't that nice because I had been there for about 2 weeks. I went inside the house, she offered me some soup, I readily took it, and she told me that there are 2 nice men that will handle your situation. Tell your story to them.
Sorry, can you see the last word?
She said, there are 2 nice men who are waiting for you to tell them their story. Tell your story to them.
Okay. فبعدين قالت لي، قلت لهم ما أقدر، قامت ما قالت شيء وبدأت تعطيني أكل كويس. كنت دائما عايش على سندوتشات. بعد ما أعطتني الأكل وكل شيء أكلتني الحرمة اللي قالت لي هذا كلام. قالت لي في ناس 2 رجال بيقابلوك وعندهم حاجة بيقول لك إياها.
They were policemen, and they sent me to a juvenile detention center, which is sort of like a jail. And I'm waiting for the school there. I was hoping to go to school. I stayed there for about a month.
فذول الرجالين الكويسين الطيبين اللي بيجوا طلعوا رجال شرطة، أخذوني ودوني محل الأحداث اللي هو تقريبا شبه سجن، وأنا على بالي إنه مدرسة، وقاعد حوالي شهر استنى أشوف إيش اللي يصير.
And after a month, they took me out of that place and sent me to a Christian foster home. And there I was raised up. I did go to school, and I started learning Christianity. And I was very, very interested in learning because my mother and father, like I said, my mother knew 7 languages, and my father also, was also a teacher. And they taught me more than I knew than the other 6th graders knew, and I was supposed to only go to the 4th grade. They put me up a grade or 2 grades, but they refused to send me out of the school because it would be bad for my social development in their eyes.
قعدت شهر إلين جو 2 ناس نصارى اتبنوني وأخذوني وودوني المدرسة، وكانت معلوماتي كويسة لأن أمي كانت تدرسني. أمي وأبوي كانوا ناس مثقفين فكانوا يدرسوني، ولما دخلت المدرسة حطوني في مستوى أعلى من مستواي أو مرحلة أو مرحلتين.
So in that foster home, I began to read the Bible. I read the Bible in the Old Testament and the New Testament from front to back. And what they said about Jesus was very, very interesting to me, and I loved his character that they portrayed from him, that he used to forgive the people, and he was always advising the people to have faith. But I never believed that he was God or the born Son of God.
طبعا بعد كذا طبعا تبدوني نصارى وقعدت أقرأ عنده، بدأت أقرأ الكتاب المقدس وتعرفت على شخصية عيسى وعجبت به، شعرت إنه فعلا شخص رائع، لكني ما عمري صدقت إنه الله أو إنه ولد الله.
After about a year, I stayed there, and I ended up, as I never used to fight or anything, and I ended up getting into a fight, and I ended up getting kicked out of that school. When I got kicked out of the school, they sent me back to the juvenile detention where I waited for my court. At the court date, I saw all my younger brothers and sisters in the same juvenile detention place.
طيب بعد ما خلصت طبعا قعدت في المدرسة تقريبا سنة، وطردوني من المدرسة بعد ما سويت مضاربة كبيرة مع مجموعة. ولما انطردت من المدرسة رجعوني لمركز الأحداث. قعدت هناك استنى المحاكمة، وبعد ما خرجت من المحاكمة حصلت إنه برضو كل الأخوان الصغار رجعوا معي في نفس المكان، مكان الأحداث.
Right, and they put me and my brothers in one foster home, and my sister in another foster home. I went to church, and I was very serious about being Christian, until one day what they have is an offering. They were asking to build a baptismal pool where they put people's head into the water. They needed to build a heater for it. and they gave a great sermon about a lady who paid half of her money, and she was very poor, so she paid 2 pennies, and she paid 1 penny and she only had 2. Where another person had a lot of money, and he paid not half of his wealth. But it was a touching story, which made me so happy to put in my money. After I put my money in, my foster father, who was the deacon of the church, sat with the minister, and they divided the money up between themselves. This is for you, and this is for you, and there was no mention of the baptismal pool.
طبعا بعد ما خرجت اخذوني انا واخواني ودوني مكان، تبنوني ناس، واختي اتبنوها ناس ثانيين. اللي تبناني من وانا واخواني كان واحد يشتغل قسيس في الكنيسه، وصار ياخذنا الكنيسه، ودخلت الكنيسه متحمس اني اصير نصراني قوي. وفي مره من المرات قاعد يتكلم ويعطي خطبه عن الصدقه واهميه الصدقه عشان يبغوا يسووا نافوره في الكنيسه، بحيث انه يعمدوا فيها الناس النصارى. فكان كل الناس قاعد يتكلموا ويقولوا انه هذه مسكينه ما عندها فلوس، واعطتني اعطت نص فلوسها، ونص فلوسها تقريبا بني واحد اللي 10 قروش. فانا تحمست، لما شفت الناس قاعدين يتصدقوا كذا قمت حطيت كل فلوسي في المشروع هذا. بعد ما خلصت وقعدت، ابوي طبعا كان هو القسيس حق الكنيسه، لما قعدت معاهم اجتمعوا مع بعض حول بعض، وفجاه ايش سووا؟ قاموا وزعوا الفلوس اللي اخذوها بين بعض، لا نافور ولا هم يحزنون.
So it made me understand. So it let me understand that, or it caused me to understand that religion at that time was being used as a business, and they were just playing around. And that at that time I was only 10, so it had a great effect on me, and I was trying to be sincere, so it was the only hope that I really thought I had. So it affected me in a negative way, where I didn't look for religion anymore in the church.
طبعا هذا أثر علي، وكنت صغير كان عمري 10 سنوات، فأثره كان كبير علي مرة، وخلاني أبحث عن دين في مكان غير الكنيسة.
Right. I just stopped looking for deen. I stopped looking for deen.
بعدين توقفت عن إني أدور على شيء اسمه دين أصلاً، ما صرت مقتنع بالدين خلقه.
And I started getting bad grades, hanging around with a bad crowd. And one day I joined the group of people who were in my neighborhood, who were called the Crips at that time, and I became one of them.
Did you?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, really?
Yeah, I became one of them at that time, and since I was very, very short, I felt that it was I had to prove myself. And these people came like my extended family. And in fact, most of the people that you see there in these Crips and Bloods, the reason why they have so much affinity for them or so much connection with them is because they take them as their family. There's so many people who are neglected by their children. Though I don't see the people of Saudi Arabia, I don't see them that much. They do have a very close family culture, and they're not doing it for that reason.
Sorry, what was the name of
The end up thing?
Yeah.
The end thing? I said, though I don't see any of the people.
No, what is the group? The name of the group?
It's a gang. It's a gang.
Okay, I don't know.
It's a big gang.
Okay. طبعا لما بدأت تركت الدين ضعت، مشيت مع الناس وخرجت ورحت في ديانات مختلفة أو في الشارع، وتعرفت على ناس كثير، إلين انضميت لجماعة مشهورة اسمها الكريبتس، واللي جذبني لهم إنه عندهم علاقة بين بعض قوية جدا. طب وهذه العلاقة أشوفها يعني في السعودية في علاقات زي كذا عائلية، لكنها ما هي بالقوة اللي شفتها هناك.
Right. Yeah, my point there was that the people who call themselves Crips or try to act like Crips or Bloods here, they don't have that reason to do such a thing because they have families and they have something that they don't really understand why the people are doing that over there in the United States. So it doesn't even look proper to somebody who comes from there because they say these people don't know what they're doing anyway. I mean those people who do affiliate themselves with these groups here. And anyway, because we're going back to how I became Muslim, I went with these guys and got into so much trouble. I became confused. Most of the people who I hung with are dead. I only know maybe 2 or 3, and they died violent deaths. I only know a few people who I used to live with, and they got out of it. So later, after traveling down this road with him, I ended up going to a prison. Because I followed the way of people who I thought were like my extended family. I continued my studies, and as I was studying, I would read, because they have universities and they have colleges and everything else like that there in the prison. I began to read about Islam. It was me and a friend of mine. We had set a pact that we would start a mafia, and this mafia was supposed to take over the world. So we had to study and find out how to do it. And the only way we could find out is to find the people who ever ruled the world. We looked at things like Hitler, we looked at things like the prophets, we looked at it from every way that we could. So the pact was one of us would have to go to the big prison, the other one would have to go to a college, university outside and continue, and the other one would have to learn the life of the streets. When I first got in there, I thought to myself, I'm tired of this life. I don't want to continue this. And I made a prayer. I said, God, Allah, Jehovah, whatever you want me to call you by, you have the most beautiful names. Don't let me out of here until I want to do what you want me to do. And I knew at that time I wasn't ready to do those things. I hadn't realized in myself what I needed to be on the straight path. So I just did everything that I could do. And I stayed there and ended up getting more and more time. I didn't expect to get out. I thought I would die there, because I thought someone would come and face me and I would have to face them and stand up and represent my neighborhood and where I came from. And one day, a friend of mine told me to come to accept Islam. He said that, accept Islam, and I said, I would like to accept Islam. No, sorry, the Imam, which is the Imam, you know what the Imam is, of the inside Imam who was in the prison said that we're going to start a war. I'm going to go to war against the Crips and the Bloods because they're killing people and innocent bystanders. And he didn't know that I was a Crip. So I told him, I said, look, if you start a war against the Crips and Bloods, you're going to be killing your own soldiers. I said, if you educate them, then they will understand what it means to, and what the problems they're going through, and how to stop these things. You have to educate them. And I was able to talk to the Crips and Bloods because everybody understood the reason why I was there, that I was there to get knowledge. And when the Imam he responded to me, he said, that sounds good, but it will never happen. We will never get them together. So I went to them, each one. I went to the Crips and I went to the Bloods. And I used to talk to them before, so I knew the problems. So I brought them all together and I said that if there's a man who can solve our problems with a religion that can solve the problems, then would you guys come and listen to him? They said yes. So all the blacks came, both the Crips and Bloods. Mexican gangs saw this happening, they came. The whites were wondering why all these people are gathering together, and they came. Until the whole place was filled up. It was on Yom Jum'ah. So, on the Friday, days of the Friday prayers. So they all came together, and many of them accepted Islam that day. I didn't. But we were praying together and everything. No, I didn't. I still stayed in because I had the belief that Jesus Christ died for the sins of us. That's what they brainwashed us to believe, that if you don't, you can do anything.
But you brought them together though.
Right, I brought them together because I knew this was right, this was what was correct. But I didn't, because I didn't want to, myself, I didn't want to feel like a hypocrite. And I didn't want to feel like I'm practicing something that I'm not. I believe that it's correct. I knew that Islam was correct, but I wanted to practice it correctly. And I didn't think I was ready to practice it correctly, because I had that one small belief about Jesus being crucified, and that if I left that, then I wouldn't go to heaven. I wouldn't go to the paradise. And I needed something to prove to me. I needed to read it in a book. And so we ended up having a riot there, and then I ended up going into a hole. The hole is a place where you have very, very solitary confinement. In that hole, a man was sending me books by Ahmed Deedat about the difference between crucifixion and crucifaxion, and difference about Jesus being crucified or not. I read those books, and in the books, there were also books about, is the Bible God's Word? And I could get any Bible I wanted to get. I couldn't get a Quran, but I could get any book Bible I wanted to get. So I would read it, and I would read it. And when I finally believed that it was, that this was true, and I understood that the people had made different translation errors and also put their own feelings in translations, put in words in parentheses and then removing the parentheses later on, I believed that Islam was true, and I said, okay, I have no other choice. And I took the Shahada there with the man in the hole, and he said he had been praying. He was an imam from outside who had been convicted for defending his daughter, who was being raped at the time. He defended his daughter, ended up killing the man, and went to prison for that. But he still was Muslim, and he was practicing his Islam. He had been praying for 5 years in the hole that Allah would send somebody there.
He was in the hole for 5 years?
He was in the hole for 5 years, and he had been praying that Allah would send someone there to pray Salatul Jama'ah, just to pray with two people, to make the congregational prayer. And alhamdulillah, when we went together, he taught me how to make the adhan, so I called the adhan, and I was transferred to another place, to another prison, a worse prison than that. And my problem there was to be able to speak and say that I was Muslim, because I had a lot of friends and I couldn't disassociate myself, I couldn't separate myself from my old friends. I loved them too much. But I knew that Islam was correct. And these are some, if you separate, you have to be ready to go to war in a place like that. And I prayed to Allah. I just said, oh Allah, help me. I'm too weak. Oh Allah, please help me to be able to be the strong Muslim that you want me to be. So a week later, without me saying anything to guards, they sent me to another cell, not with Crips, but with other people in there who were doing drugs. And the guy told me to help him do the drugs. I said, I can't do that because I'm Muslim. He said, well, we don't know that. You look like a Crip to us. And I said, but I'm Muslim. He said, well, you have to make that clear, because if we go to war with the Crips, we have to go to war with you. So I just kept praying to Allah. I said, oh Allah, I can't help you. And I said, oh Allah, please help me to be stronger. And I would always see this guy saying Assalamu alaikum to me. He would always pass me by as we were going to eat in the chow hall, and he would tell me Assalamu alaikum. And I would always return and say wa alaikum salam. So another week passed, and they sent me to a cell by myself. And they brought a new cellmate. So I turned around, and when I turned around, I saw it was the guy who would always say to me, Assalamu alaikum. But he had worse beliefs than anyone else. He believed that they called themselves Ansar al-Muhammad, and they believed that they have to do all evil in the world in order to save the children on the day of judgment. They will be on some spaceship, and they will keep the knowledge of bad with themselves. So they have to do every evil. And I didn't know how to explain it to him in an Islamic or scholarly manner. I would just let the Quran fall open, in Arabic and English Quran, I would just let it fall open to any page. But on the page that it fell open to would be something that would either correct the way I was giving the message and correct him about his aqidah. Because each time we would almost be ready to kill each other. Because he'd say, oh, you calling me a non-Muslim? I would say, well, this is not Islam. And he felt so strongly about his belief that he wanted to kill me. But I said, okay, just let's look at the book first before we go to battle each other. This happened 3 times until he said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah. I wasn't kafir before, now I'm Muslim. He went straight away and began to call his old friends that he was from that of his old group to Islam and straighten their belief. I looked at him and I said, this is an example. He went straight from the first day and proclaimed his mistake and proclaimed his Islam. I'm still sitting here afraid to say that I'm not a Crip. And when I saw that, I cried, and I went straight away myself, and I began to proclaim my Islam openly. I was not supposed to get out, and at that time, but a couple of events happened which would have made me get extra time. And as I was taking my roll to go to the hole, the prison guards put me in a room that I could see outside, and I hadn't seen the trees or anything for about a year or 2 years. I had been there for about 3 years and 9 months. And I saw leaves and trees and beautiful things outside, and I had been thinking just to be next to a river or running water would be enough for me. I wouldn't have to say a word. And they gave me my property and opened the gates. It was not time for me to be released. I should have done maybe 2 or 3 more years. So I remembered my dua to Allah. Because at the time I was going to do something that I would not have done except to please Allah by it. And it could have gave me some dangerous results. But right in the middle of doing the action, I was called and released. And I was released from the place.
What was it? Why they released you? Why they?
They didn't tell me why they released me. They just said go. And I knew, just like that. And I knew that the only thing, because it was the worst place that they have there in California, and I knew that the only reason why I was let out was because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because of that prayer, that, oh Allah, to you belong the most beautiful names. Please don't let me out of here until I want to do what you want me to do, till I want to do it. And I just made sajda. I put my face to the ground and just cried and asked Allah to forgive me and thanked Him for doing it. And it just so happens that one of the people from Los Angeles was 8 hours away there and came to pick me up. I went back to my neighborhood and stayed at home for about 2 weeks. I didn't go outside because I didn't want to get caught up in the society doing anything that would get me back in trouble. And I started my studies back, and I had been going to college in the prison as well, but when I got back outside, I started back my studies. And what happened was, that was the beginning of my journey to Mecca. Coming to Islam was it was, of course, the greatest thing that happened to me. But as I see the struggle from there to now, I mean, so many things have transpired that coming from America to a Muslim country and having to deal with the cultural differences, especially the expectations that you get from somebody in the States at all kind of levels, you know, because it's a great difference. It's a thing that people have to deal with. It's a thing that is it's something that if you look at it at a big picture, if you look at it the big picture, you will see that you can't put it in words. I mean, it's quite difficult to explain. The expectations that you get from a person are quite different. When I say something to a Muslim here, it's different from when I would say something. My expectation from him is different from a person I expect in America or in the States, you know. And in the States, they expect you to be, when they see a person come from Saudi Arabia, they say, this man is an angel. Whenever I walk and I wear shmaq and I wear imama, you know, in America, the non-believers there say, oh, you're an angel. They believe that we are angels as Muslims and the way we act and we dress. They look at that all the time. You know, even if we think it's just culture or it's part of the religion or not, the person seeing you as a Muslim, especially come from this part of the world, because they know you're close to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you can understand the language, you know what's happening. It's different from, you know, the way you're thinking about it now and just culture. I can just be my own self, and no, you can't. Because when you go to the States or you go any place like that, just like the camera is on me right now, the camera is on you. Everybody's watching you and seeing what example you are setting. You know, and you have to be careful because society will grab you up. If you have friends talking about they are, you know, Snoop or they are Tupac or whoever they are, those people, they are acting. Those people are acting. Those people have never been in the things, they've never been in what they said they've been in. And they said it themselves. They're just acting. So are we going to act like the actor who doesn't even know what he's talking about really? He hears something and passes it on in a rhyme. But to live that life, like I say, people who grow up with me are dead. It's only a couple of them. I went back to America last year. Only a couple of them are still living. And they died violent deaths. And that's the only thing I thought in my mind when I said, oh Allah, don't let me out of here. Because I kept seeing myself over and over, thinking, what did I give to my children if I died in this way? What have I done to society? What have I given to my people if I died in this way? I had to change it. And that's my advice to all of you. If you have friends and things like that who you know have been caught up in the trap of the Western ideology and the guys who will, you know, put you in type of the gang or make you think like you want to look like them. Like I said, either you overdo it because you want to make yourself blend in and make yourself be accepted. So the other people look at you like, oh, this guy is a wannabe. This guy he doesn't know what he's doing. So they look at you sillily. But when they see you as a Muslim, they have respect for you. You could go in the worst gang neighborhood wearing a thobe and wearing your tradition, and people will tell you, Assalamu alaikum, non-Muslims. Non-Muslim. But if they see you in the shop selling beer and alcohol or pork, they say, this is a fake Muslim. He's good. He's good for whatever happens to him. So they have to be careful. Be careful. If you hold on to your religion, Allah already said, this is the izzah. He promised the izzah lillah. وَلِلْرَسُولِ وَلِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. So if you keep your izzah, Allah will keep you in that beautiful position. So please protect yourselves and protect your families by showing the best of Islam that you can, and don't get caught in the trap. And don't say, I'm not the one, because anybody can do it. Anybody can do it. That was the part that, at least until I became Muslim, alhamdulillah, I had a lot of success after that, because I've been, alhamdulillah, Muslim for 23 years now. And I had a lot of chance to do a lot of changing and a lot of activities. In between that time, when I became Muslim, I left and began to manage apartments and moved to the desert, stayed in the desert for about 5 years.
In America?
In America, in Mojave Desert. And stayed there to and I learned a lot there about
Who'd you stay there with? With who?
7 horses and 40 chickens. Okay. Just my family who I married, who met there, and we just left there just to get away from the mainstream society and the main thing what was going on before going to making hijrah to go to another country, Muslim country. And it taught me that living there, it taught me how much Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will help you if you trust in Him. If you trust in Him, I had so many incidences where I would be driving a gigantic truck or something like this. I drove a gigantic truck once and was stuck in the middle of the desert for about 7 or 8 hours in freezing cold weather. I had nothing but Allah to help me. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala got me out and gave me the ideas to get out of there when nobody else can. In the middle of the desert, you have no help except from Allah. You understand, you have no help except from Allah. And actually, that's the root of it. Because when Ibrahim's wife, Hajar alayhi salam, when they left, when she came to Mecca, she had no help. She was going with no help, no idea of anything in the middle of the desert. She had to trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you do take your means and you do try to do the best you can do. But in the end, you just have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help you. And as long as you realize that, you don't get caught up with the other fears that you might face of having to be in a group or having to identify with someone other than yourself or other than what is Islam. And people respect you as Muslims. They do. And another thing, I have to say that, going back to America, I had the people there many times might ask you, they might ask you, what is that you have on your face? What is this? They may say to you, if you're wearing a beard, for example, that's because they want to know the truth. And they are very frank and open a lot of times. Maybe they don't know how to express themselves sometimes, but they really want to know the truth. They're testing you with these words, even if they don't use good language at the time, sometimes. I was asked that one time about, what is this on your face? And I responded, I said, look, who do you say is God? They said, we say that Jesus is God. I said, you say Jesus is God? I said, I don't say that, but you say that He's God and the Son of God, right? I said, what does He have on His face? And His beard is sometimes longer than my beard. And His thobe is like the thobe that we wear. So who is closer in resemblance to, if you say you're being Christ-like, to the Prophet Isa ibn Maryam, or your idea of it, of the Prophet Isa, their idea, I mean. And they readily respect something like this. Oh, I didn't think about it like this. Because they're not used to people coming and opening up to them with their side. That's another point. Do not be afraid to express what Islam says in a nice way, because they appreciate that. I'm going to make it, I know I've taken up more than my time, and I hope to be, at another time, be invited to explain how I got to Mecca.
Thank you very much. What was your name before and what is your name now?
Before my name was Romando Tefewa Clark, and my father's name was Raymond. He named me Romando, which is a Spanish variation of it, and Tefewa was a variation of Abu Bakr Tefewa Balega, who was the president of Nigeria in 1968 when I was born. And Clark is the name of the family. Now I changed that to Ali Raymond Clark, which I liked Ali when I first heard about, how he was very courageous and how he loved the Prophet and he gave his life to defend him.
MashaAllah. Wallahi, thank you very much, Ali. Thank you for sharing that story, man.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure. Give me some love on that one, brother. It was a very good story. Thank you. Jazakallah khair. Ya Ikhwan. Actually, our time is about up, but there's something that I always tell my students. Tastahi min jaddakum. Tastahi min jaddakum. So, what do you think that means? If I said tastahi min jaddakum, what does that mean?
تستحي؟
Yeah, tastahi min jaddakum.
Embarrassed?
Of
what?
Jaddakum.
Grandfather?
Yes.
So what's
So what does it say? What does it mean?
تستحي من جدكم؟
Uh-huh.
I don't know. It's like تستحي من أبوكم.
Yeah, to be embarrassed.
To be embarrassed.
To be embarrassed before your grandfather.
Yeah.
And who are your grandfathers? Who's that?
My father's dad.
Your father's dad. Who's your father's dad?
My grandfather.
And your grandfather's dad?
Yeah.
And your grand-grandfather? And your grand-grand-grandfather, right? And I'm sure some of you could tell me your name, right? How many, your name, how far can you go back?
How much?
How far can you go back on your name?
Maybe 6.
Okay, Bismillah, give me 6.
محمد علي محمد رافع القبيس الشهري.
How far can you go back? Okay, try. Give me what you can.
يحيى عامر علي حمد عامر حشة جبالي الوايلي. That's all. الحمداني.
Alhamdani.
الحمداني.
MashaAllah. Can anybody else give me some names? Can you? No? You? How far can you go? Come on, help. It's your family, it's your blood, man. Go ahead.
Ibrahim, Dilhamid, Abdullah, Bagas.
How about you?
ناصر عبدالله ناصر موسى.
Alhamdulillah. I mean, it's a special thing, right? That this brother and I, we couldn't do that.
2 only.
I could give you 1. Or I give you my father, Walter, and I give you George. And I'm lost after that. How far can you go back? You can go back 5? Okay. Give us your 5.
It's because it's so easy.
Okay, go ahead.
It's Raymond, the son of Ben, the son of John, the son of John, the son of John.
Okay, so all Johns, huh? Alhamdulillah. But this is something that I tell my students, Tastahi min jaddakum. And they say, Ya Ustad, ish jaddi, min jaddi. I mean, your grandfathers were the ones with the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Those are your grandfathers, man. So when I say and be embarrassed before your grandfathers, this is what I'm talking about. Your grandfathers who was with Umar, radiallahu anh, when he sent the people out, and with Ali, and with Uthman, yeah, and with Tariq ibn Jamal when he went to Spain, right, and they ruled Spain. Your grandfathers, man, your grandfathers ruled Spain for 800 years. Not 8 years, 800. 800 years plus. Your grandfathers. So that's when I say to Tastahi min jaddik, man, your grandfathers were the ones that were with Abdul Aziz As'ud when he did his thing. Your grandfathers were the ones who spread the deen of Islam. These are the grandfathers I said to be embarrassed in front of. Because Jid, You know, when I came here, you know, in the back of my mind, really, in the back of my mind, and I'm sure in the back of my brother Ali's mind, we were thinking we were coming here and we were going to find some of the Sahabas still living here. Really. I thought that some of the Sahabas were going to still be here. And the same with your driver, the maids, and all these people, the Muslims that come here. They think in the back of their minds that the Sahabas are still here. Because all we learn from I learned my Islam from books, reading books. So I'm thinking, wow, you know, I'm coming to the Ballad of Islam, you know, I'm coming to the country of Islam, and I'm going to find the Sahabas, you know, and I'm going to, you know, we're going to practice Islam, and, you know, but, mashallah.
You find another thing?
Yeah, man. I found people wanting to be like Tupac Shakur, and you know what I'm saying? And you know, wearing, yeah, it was like, you know, things change. But the thing is that you're Muslims. And you need to remember who you are. Yeah? That when you look at yourself in the mirror in the morning and you see Ahmed and you see Mustafa and you see Ali, you know what I'm saying? And you represent that. That's what it's about. Not to the point, if you wear a thobe or you don't wear a thobe, but the thing is that you're a Muslim. And you got to remember that. And you need to practice, you know, you need to practice your religion to as much as you can.
But the beliefs stay.
It has to stay. And the thing is not to get caught up, right, in the West.
Media.
You know, don't get caught up into the Western media. Don't get caught up into it, yeah? To the fact that you start thinking that, you know, that the West is best, and leave what your grandfathers had for you. Don't get confused with modernism and Westernism. That's it. You know, alhamdulillah, man, learn the English. English is good to know now. But remember, 400 years ago when the Muslims were in Spain, believe me, when the people wanted to learn medicine, they had to learn Arabic. When they wanted to learn math, they had to learn Arabic. Anybody who was considered a doctor or a scholar at that time, he had to learn Arabic because all the knowledge was in Arabic. And that was the beautiful thing about it. Unfortunately, what goes up comes down, you know? And right now, it's an English language. But before, you know, it was the Arabic language. And my final point, the Arabic language. Where did that come from? Where did Arabic language come from? Where did it come from? No, they were speaking Arabic before the Quran. But the thing is, think about it, Akhi. The Arabic language that they were speaking, they spoke it in Yemen, they spoke it in Mecca, they spoke it in Medina, they spoke it, the Arabs took it to Egypt. But they spoke it, in the Arab Peninsula, you know? Everybody was speaking Arabic. Who was writing the Arabic down? Who gave it the grammar? Yeah. Think about it. A Bedouin coming from Ruba Kali could come to Mecca and communicate. A Bedouin can come from Abha or Hayal and come to Mecca and give poems. Say poems in Arabic that would make people cry. That they would take those poems and write them down in gold and hang them up in the Kaaba and have competitions in speaking Arabic. Where does Arabic come from? But it was Sibawayh. Was it Sibawayh who actually wrote down the rules, and he wasn't even Arab. But where does Arabic come from? That's where it came from. So don't lose your Arabic. That's what I'm trying to say. Don't lose your Arabic. Because your Arabic is special. Right now, yes, English is being spoken, but Arabic is the language that the Quran is in. Alhamdulillah for the Quran, because the Quran kept your language, because now you guys are speaking Armiya. I don't even understand. Ishlonik, Alabonik, Fintaru, Ishtagul, and you know, I can understand your Amir. But alhamdulillah, you know, because Allah put the Quran and the Fusha language, and your language has been preserved. And there's no other language in the world that's been preserved like that. Look how many times English has the English language, how the English language even came here, how it changed. And it's still changing. But because of the Quran, your language is preserved forever. Alhamdulillah. So the thing is, you know, what I'm saying, Ikhwan, and your search, you know, and your search for learning this language of English, alhamdulillah, it's a good thing. But don't give up your Arabic for it. You know? Don't give up your Arabic for it. Because your Arabic is special. Because you guys you can open up, subhanAllah, you can open up Ibn Kathir, you can open up, you know, Bukhari, you can open up Muslim, you can open up the Quran itself, and you can read and understand, mashallah. Where I have to stutter and get a dictionary, and so alhamdulillah. So when I say tastahi min jaddikum, just remember of your past, man. You guys come from a great past, so there's no need to try to copy the West in order to be the best. You know, because mashallah, Allah has already blessed you to be the best. You're Muslim. Listen, I want to thank you very much for coming. And Ali, thank you very much for your story. It was a very beautiful story, mashallah. And I look forward to seeing you guys, inshallah, next week upstairs at the Java Cafe. Inshallah, when the talk is only 30 minutes in the Java Cafe. So what's the topic next week? Do you remember? Each week we do a different topic, so I don't really remember what the topic is, but inshallah, next week, inshallah, we'll have a topic for you, inshallah, so you come and share. Now the thing is, this program is for self-learning, and it's giving you a chance to listen and to practice your English. This is the purpose of our talks, to give you a chance to listen and to practice your English, and give you a chance to listen to native speakers speak comfortably, you know, in our Armiya, and trying to understand. Anyway, listen, I want to thank you very much for coming and for staying and listening, and I hope that you benefit from it, yo. Peace, the belief in one, that's true peace. What's this here for? This mind, sugar your mukh. Yeah, let's use this thing, that's what it's there for. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.